Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. I have another card featuring a new product in Picket Fence Studio's April release. I'm using an inlaid paper piecing technique, and of course I have to do something extra special for an extra special die. A2 Cherry Blossoms cover plate. This is gorgeous. I first used the die to cut black cardstock to create my outline. There's lots of beautiful, intricate details on this die, so I'm going to paper piece the easy way, and I'm starting off with a piece of cardstock that is A2 size, measuring 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. The entire panel will be covered with double-sided tape by Sue Quang. Width of the tape that I'm using is 1 inch or 25 millimeters, so it doesn't take long to cover my panel. This is a really strong adhesive and great for so many applications. I keep several rolls on hand in a variety of widths. It worked out well, so I was able to grab my tape that was 1/4 inch wide and finish up the panel. This card is going to be oriented vertically, so I remove all of the backing paper and then I'm going to replace several pieces horizontally. As I mentioned earlier, this adhesive is very strong and not very forgiving. The backing paper is a little bit of insurance so that I can get everything lined up and then adhere it section by section. This is the only part of the project that you do have to take a fair amount of care. But having said that, once the top is lined up, everything else just unfolds very nicely. The panel that I'm building the inlay on is just a little bit bigger than my outline panel. And of course it's noticeable because my outline is black on ivory. So I will trim that down, but I'm going to wait until I've put my entire panel together. The cover plate die has been used to cut a piece of ivory cardstock. I'm picking out all of the background pieces and inlaying those first. The images on this cover plate have been flipped, so it is important when you do the inlay work that you keep your panel oriented the same way as the die cut panel that you're taking your paper pieces from. What I have found is that if the inlay pieces aren't fitting in absolutely perfectly, if I take my thumbnail and push it up against a line, I can move it enough to get it to pop into place. I've actually used 2 shades of very soft pink cardstock for the flowers. They're pretty close in color, and it's difficult to capture that in a photograph, but in real life, in good light mind you, there is a difference. Right now I'm working with the darkest of the 2 pinks. Every once in a while when I remove one of the die cut petals, I have to help release the paper around the stamen area using my craft pick. These are very intricate die cuts, but they do come out cleanly. When the petals are inlaid, sometimes the stamens may not be quite in the right position, and so using my craft pick, I'm able to nudge them over so that everything falls into place like a perfect puzzle. Okay, now I am ready to die cut the center flower, which is being done in the lightest pink. I love doing inlay work. It is so satisfying seeing it all come together. And I also love that I'm not working with liquid adhesive. This makes it a much cleaner and easier process. So that wraps up the floral images on one side of my panel. Now I just need to flip it around and do the same thing on the other side. And as usual, if any of the products that I'm using tickle your fancy, you'll find links in the description of this YouTube video or on my blog at bonniecarolee.com. And when I'm done, the only exposed tape will be under the black netting in the center of the panel. This is a perfect opportunity to pull out the glitter. I'm using a very fine glitter by Martha Stewart called Smoky Quartz. And of course, when you're working with glitter, you want to try to contain it. So I am working on a piece of copy paper. And after I've placed the glitter onto the card, then I just use my finger to work it into those little openings. I'll go back over it again, but this time I'm really burnishing it with my finger. I don't use glitter very often, but honestly, there's nothing that has a more beautiful shine. I give it a couple of good knocks and then use the stencil brush to remove all of the loose glitter. The bristles are a little bit stiffer than a paintbrush, so it does a good job of removing most of the glitter that has not been adhered. And the little stray pieces here and there are removed with a good rub with a microfiber cloth. Now I'm ready to trim the two sides where the panel was just a little bit bigger than the outline die cut. And for this job, I like to use the Tim Holtz guillotine. I'm only removing a very thin sliver, and so I need to be quite precise, and the press plate will make sure that everything stays exactly in position. I'm double checking the panel on the card base to make sure that it's going to fit edge to edge. It does need to be trimmed down, so I'm going to do that before it is adhered. I'm using a sentiment from Picket Fence Studio's Fancy Friendship Sentiments. This set also has coordinating dies. This stamp is inked with Picket Fence's Intense Black ink. I use their stamp scrubber to clean my stamp, and boy does that make a quick and easy job. The die is easily aligned to the sentiment, and then I use a little bit of low-tack purple tape to hold everything in place while I run it through the die cutter. If you watch any of my videos, you'll know that I'm a big fan of dimension. Picket Fence Studios has double adhesive foam. It comes in black and white, in panels, or on big rolls. Right now I'm working on the panels, but I have ordered the big rolls and I can't wait for them to arrive. Sentiment die was used to cut black foam. This is a very high quality foam. It is very dense and I had no stretching at all. I'm not sure why, but I didn't follow the same process that I use when I work with foam, but I will the next time. And that is to leave the foam die cut in the backing and then line up the cardstock one to it. And so I did have a little bit of fiddling to do to get everything aligned, so that was a good reminder to me that I work out processes for myself to make things easier, and so I do need to do them all the time. And then off comes the backing, and just like that, the sentiment is adhered to the card. I'm using a jewel picker by Picket Fence to place some beautiful iridescent clear sequins from a sequin mix called Day of Rainbows. You notice that there's a different sentiment on the card. I started off with this small one, but it just got lost in the design, so I ended up switching it out. And so here it comes. I tend to finish off all of my sequins or confetti with Nouveau drops. For this card, I'm using Dream Drops called Cloud 9. It picks up the pretty pink of the cherry blossoms. And that wraps up this paper pieced inlaid card featuring a beautiful new die by Picket Fence Studios A2 Cherry Blossoms cover plate. Be sure to check out all of the other awesome products in the April release. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I appreciate your visit.